appreciate our time together. We're just sort of lighting our way into the darkening days. And today, for our practice, we are going to continue our conversation about cultivating compassion with Roshi Joan Halifax. So, without further ado, I want to just take a quick peek. Yeah, we've just got a couple of more chapters, sections in this book left. So I'm just going to invite everybody to fully arrive to our practice. I want to welcome everyone to Recovery Dharma. My name is Julia. I'll be facilitating our practice today. I want to remind everybody about our commitment to creating a space here that is full of integrity and presence. One of the things that we vow to do is engage in ethical conduct, wise speech. And so one of the things we heard from a Sangha member today, she had to make herself a little bit more hidden, more anonymous, because in a different meeting, somebody was bothering her, being unskillful. And so, let's use the chat wisely. Let's not use it as an opportunity to act out. Let's use it as a place to be encouraging. This is an environment where we're here to heal from the confusion associated with negative habit energy. With that, welcome, welcome one and all. Last week, I shared with you all Roshi's perception and perspective on mapping compassion, and she had 4 questions that we addressed. And one of the questions, the 4 questions were, can you have compassion in the middle of being distracted? And the answer is no. The more we cultivate a spirit of presence, the more compassion we have. Likewise, to have compassion, we have to engage pro-social feelings. If we're bah humbug about life, compassion is going to feel foreign to us. Another aspect to compassion is the capacity to be able to discern what's going to be helpful. And then the third question that she had is, when we have the desire for compassion, is that enough? And the answer to that is yes, it is. When we want the best for someone, even if we can't help them directly, even if our actions are not available to another individual, to witness somebody suffering, to wish for their well-being is an act of compassion. Today, I would like to read a section called Compassion is Made of Non-Compassion Elements. And what that means is we can cultivate a whole bunch of other conditions that will add to, that will enhance and grow our capacity for compassion. This is what Roshi says. In order for compassion to arise, 4 conditions must be present. The capacity to attend to the experience of others, to feel concern for others, to sense into what will serve, and to act in order to enhance well-being, or at least want what's best for someone. She calls this attention, pro-social feelings, selfless intention, insight, and embodiment. These are key non-compassion elements that comprise the body of compassion. Roshi writes, I learned from studying neuroscience research that compassion is not located in one place in the brain, but is distributed throughout. It appears to be emergent, meaning it arises when the suite of features that comprise compassion are engaged. As Thich Nhat Hanh writes, the flower is made of non-flower elements. When you look at the flower, you see non-flower elements like sunlight, rain, earth, all the elements that have come together to help the flower manifest. If you were to remove any of these non-flower elements, there would no longer be a flower. Just as sunlight, rain, and earth make up the flower, so do attention, concern, insight, intention, and embodiment make up compassion. From this perspective of interdependence, and drawing on my meditation and caregiving experiences, studies in neuroscience and social psychology, I ended up creating a matrix that identifies the primary features that allow compassion to arise. In other words, the non-compassion elements that prime the emergence of compassion. We do this by training our faculties of attention, cultivating pro-social qualities and unselfish intentions, develop our capacity for discernment and insight, and create the conditions for ethical, caring engagement. Compassionate engagement is embodied and ethically aligned. It is also characterized by ease, equanimity, and kindness. It generates a sense of well-being inside us as we serve others. I call this model the Abide model of compassion. A in the word abide stands for attention and affect. B stands for balance. And this is about balancing our attention and our emotions. The I in abide includes intention and insight. These are cognitive processes that lead to the D in abide, which is discernment. And the E points to embodiment or engagement. Attention, balance, insight, discernment, engagement. The last sentence of this chapter is beautiful. Roshi writes, a map of compassion is useful. Having this tool, having this practice is useful. But the territory of our everyday lives is where compassion gets real and is our lived experience. So I'd like to take us inward a little bit and think about compassion. What are the four main ingredients? What are the 4 conditions that we have to have? And I'd like to remind everybody that our dualistic black and white thinking minds are very quick to say, I either have all of these qualities or I have none of these qualities. I'm either engaged in all of these conditions and I'm such a good person, or I'm not engaged in any of these conditions and I'm a terrible person. The Buddhist practice is all about recognizing that, yes, we have the capacity as whole human beings to have all of the conditions for compassion ready and available. We got it. We're nailing it. And we also have the capacity to fall short, to fall flat on our face, and to not be able to exercise compassion at all. Most of us land somewhere in between. There are going to be times in our lives where our concern for others is going to wax and wane. We cannot always have the same level of concern for people, for animals, for nature. Some days we're going to be really concerned. It's going to be very tangible. We're going to be proactive. And other days we're going to be like, well, I wish I could do something. I wish I had the energy. I wish I had the resources to get out there and act, but I don't. That's real. And the practice is, rather than beat ourselves up for coming up short on compassion, we simply recognize, oh, I'm right in the middle of a condition that is limiting my expression of compassion. Would you look at that? I wonder what that's all about. Have I overextended myself? Am I not getting enough sleep? Is my nutrition poor? Am I in a difficult relationship with somebody that's taking more resources than I normally have? Our capacities are impermanent. They will change. They will come. They will go. But nevertheless, at the very basic level, the 4 conditions of compassion include your capacity for other people and their stuff, your capacity to see yourself in other people and their stuff, your concern for other people, your discernment, how to help, how to back off, when to jump in, when to give space. Both are essential. And how to act from a place of benefit. One of the stories at the very beginning of this book that is so impactful is Roshi shares a story about working in a medical clinic in the Himalayan mountains. And one day, walking into the medical clinic after what must have been days of very arduous journeying, a man shows up carrying a bundle wrapped in putrid rags. And when he unwrapped this bundle, it was his daughter who had fallen into a fire and had been burned. And the smell of rotting flesh just permeated the whole clinic. And the doctors and nursing staff immediately took over and started to clean her wounds. And in the process of trying to get her anesthetized, this little girl was, of course, screaming and crying and wailing. The pain was unfathomable. This poor father, he was completely exhausted. He was emotionally terrorized. He was freaking out. He was wailing and crying. And Roshi stood there and was like, I don't know what to do. And she felt like she was going to faint. And in that moment of discernment and in this acute arising of deep compassionate care for this little girl, for her father, for all the medical staff, she just steeled herself, held onto a pole, and breathed so she wouldn't faint and she wouldn't get sick. And the reason why she was absolutely determined to do that is she didn't want to draw any attention away from this little girl. She wanted all the medical care to go to her and this father. And her act of compassion wasn't direct to this child and her dad. It was indirect by taking care of herself, by breathing, by being solid so she didn't distract anybody else away from what needed to be done. Powerful, powerful act of compassion. Now, somebody with a more immature ego might experience that and then scold themselves, like, what's the matter with me? Why can't I be more tough? I needed to get in there and I needed to help, and I could have retrieved tools and bandages. I just stood there breathing so I didn't pass out. I'm so weak. That's the immature ego that is all too happy to belittle and admonish and obscure our actions. But with a clearer lens and with a more mature approach, we can begin to see that when we're taking really good care of ourselves, we can express acts of compassion that are direct and indirect and can be a force of great good. This is an invitation to pay attention toward your capacity to be present to others, your capacity to have genuine concern for other people's feelings. To cultivate insight and discernment so that we can engage to be of benefit. And this, my friends, is a practice. And there are times where we're gonna get it wrong. And the compassionate act, when we're holding an error, when we're holding a misstep, is to extend compassion to ourselves and and compassion to anyone we've harmed. So, for the next couple of minutes, let's take the word abide into the mind and into the heart. Abide, attention, balance, insight and intention, discernment, engagement. One of the most important things to remember about this practice is, unlike the mythologies and the stories of the martyred Catholics that I grew up with, that were of service to the point of pure self-neglect, even self-rejection and exhaustion. This is a practice that is all about making sure your oxygen mask is on first. And only then can you really be of service to anyone else. Your presence here is an act of extraordinary compassion. Its benefit will ripple out into the world. So let's spend some time reflecting on our capacity. Our capacity to be present to ourselves and others. Our capacity to have concern, genuine concern for ourselves and others. Our capacity to set ethical intentions and to be open to its insight, and our compassion and our capacity for engagement. friends. As we conclude this practice, I just want to remind everybody that in Buddhism, compassion is considered one of 4 limitless qualities. It is immeasurable. And that means not only is our capacity to express compassion limitless, but more importantly, for me anyway, in my mind, is the opportunities to practice compassion are limitless. I am nowhere near compassionate to a limitless, immeasurable way. There are plenty of people for whom I feel very little compassion. There are animals and bugs and things that I want to feel compassionate for, but I still rejoice over their demise. Not limitless. Not even close. It's a practice. It is a practice. And when I come up against that, last night it just happened. I'm sitting on my couch, and this very creepy bug started crawling up the couch out of nowhere. Now, I'm a practitioner. You would think that I would have access to being able to be like, oh, bug, you're just seeking warmth on this cold winter day, and you're really creepy and you're really near my hand, so I'm going to scoop you up in something and move you somewhere else. That would be a compassionate thing to do. That is not what I did. I flicked it, giant flick, right off the couch, and never gave it a second thought as to where it flew to. Yeah, I have some work to do. It is a practice. Enjoy, always enjoy your practice, friends. Take a deep breath. Stretch the body a little bit. Come on back. Friends, I think that's it. And I think I'd like to go ahead and end our practice with a dedication of merit. And what I'd like to do today, since I'm sitting over here by Lowe's station, is I'd like to remind everybody of the new Recovery Dharma book. So this is the 2nd edition. And it is also offered in Spanish. You can get a copy of this. I believe it just got finished, translated in Spanish on Amazon.com. And this is, I think, $10 on Amazon. But I'd like to take a moment here and see if I can find the dedication of merit in the back, because it's a really nice one. And let's take a moment to reflect on why we dedicate this practice. And we do so because we recognize that as an act of compassion, any healing that we have gained from this practice, we really take in with a strong sense of sincerity so that we can, by extension, offer it out into the world. Refuge does not arise in a particular place, but in the space within the goodness of our hearts. When this space is imbued with wisdom, respect, and love, we call it Sangha. We hope that the pain of addiction, trauma, and feeling apart actually leads us back toward the heart, and that we might understand compassion, wisdom, and change ever more deeply. As we've learned from practice, great pain does not erase goodness, but in fact informs it. May we make the best use of our practice, and whatever freedom arises from our efforts here today, may this be a cause and condition for less suffering and more safety in the world friends, take your practice, and may you enjoy the peace and ease that it brings. May you share it with all you encounter, human, plant, furry friend, feathered friend, insect, to the best of your capacity, taking note all along in joy, in kindness, in compassion. See you next time. Namaste.